নিশ্চয়ই না স্লিপ করে যায়। আরম্ভ করে দিয়ে চলে যাবে।
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, madam. Good evening.
So we are about to start.
Okay, it's all right. So I think I'm in the right time. I'm not too late or too early.
Sir.
Thank you.
Sir, our principal sir is also present there, Dr. R.K.
So
Patru.
nice. So nice.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. It's pleasure to be with you.
How are you, sir?
Just going on, sir. It's okay, sir. It's all okay with you, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
All are stuck up at home only.
Sir, should we begin?
Another resource person has joined.
So it's 7 p.m. So can we begin now? Or we'll wait for a while?
Please carry on.
Very good evening to one and all present here, to all the honorable dignitaries
Yes,
present
ma'am.
here. I welcome you all to the national webinar on management in uncertain times, conducted by the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Institute of Management Science, Kolkata. Our abode of peace, our world has changed abruptly. The pandemic outbreak has hurled us into an uncertainty, engulfing our senses with a fear of the unknown. We have almost ceased to become sure of anything under the sun, our very existence being in question. On this note, this webinar has been organized to throw some light on the uncertainty in which we are living in our daily lives at the present times. So we are going to begin the webinar with the lighting of the lamp and the prayer of the Bhavans group. Thank you. I now cordially invite our Honorable Principal Sir, Dr. R.K. Patru, to deliver his welcome address.
Very good evening to one and all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So very good evening to one and all present over here. I must take the privilege to welcome all the respected speakers, participants, students, delegates. Warm welcome to all of you on this one-day webinar on management in uncertain times, issues and challenges. Really, we all are facing a challenge due to not only the COVID, but the meaning of uncertainty means I can give you one proverb: a friend in need is a friend indeed. You can understand a friend who is really in your dire distress, coming forward, extending his or her support for your help. That is a real friend. And same thing, I can give you another example. This uncertainty can be compared with the weather. Uncertainty is in the atmosphere surrounding us. Anytime, anything can happen. It can be natural calamity, it can be storm, it can be cyclone, anything can happen. But still, we have to manage. Management during the uncertainty is totally faced global leaders today, like Brexit, China, US, trade deals, lot of conflicts are going on. These are really uncertain times the global leaders, global managers are facing today. But uncertainty is a part of life. And through this uncertainty, we can learn a lot of things. And this is a challenge for all of us. Because, the management or managers or leaders are always facing some uncertainties. Like the government policy can change, law can change, customer demand can change. These are uncertainties. So if you are like, you are a sailor sailing on the deep sea, but if your ship is not properly prepared, anytime you can drop or you can sink in the deep sea. So that is why all the managers are like that only. They have to be proactive. They should be ready to face the challenge simultaneously with the strategy, with the action plan, which is required in case we face this challenge, in case we face this crisis. What are the strategy? What are the action plan required to overcome this sort of during this crisis period, during the uncertain period? They should be like a magnet. They should work proactively. Before the danger comes, they should detect the danger like a magnet. So that is, I think, the topic of this webinar today. Our very prominent speakers are there. They are going to highlight on this issue. So I am sure that we all are, take the case of this pandemic situation. This is also unexpected. This is uncertain, because since last 2 years, we are facing this uncertain period. And we don't know, because we are faculty community. We are not acquainted for teaching online. But today we are teaching online. So first of all, another strategy can be, you should acquaint yourself with the change. Change is imminent. So you should, if you cannot accommodate yourself, if you cannot adjust yourself with the change, then you will be washed away. So many business houses, I think, after the pandemic situation or after the recession, they've changed their policy. Okay, technological change, policy change, customer satisfaction change, operational policy change, lot of changes they've incorporated after facing this uncertainty. So uncertainty is part of our life. It is like weather, it is in the atmosphere surrounded by us, and anytime anything can happen, we must be ready with our strategic action plan. If we face this uncertain period, and what will be the course of strategy, course of action plan we must apply. So this is the theme of this webinar today. I think I was thinking Madam can introduce about BIMS. Let me say a few words about Bhavan's. Bhavan's existence pan India, and each region having their separate kendra. And we are coming, Bhavan's Bharati Vidyavan Institute of Management Science is coming under Kolkata Kendra, Eastern region. Okay, and in Eastern region we have so many institutes in Bhubaneswar, in Haldia, in Assam, in Manipur. Okay, we are having so many institutes, and pan India we are having 112 institutes. And Bharatiya Vidyavan Institute of Management Science was established in the year 2000. Initially, we started with MBA program, and at that point of time, we were under the Kalyani University. And after coming up of this WBUT, now it is MAKAUT. We are now under MAKAUT, and we are running two courses. One is 2 years full-time MBA program approved by AICTE and affiliated to MAKAUT, and another is 3 years full-time BBA program. And the advantage of Bhavans is that our strength is our faculty, our infrastructure, and our industrialization. I think we are working on these three indicators, and these three indicators are working well for us, and our faculty members are really mentoring all the students, and students are also equally participating in all the activities and all the programs, functions eagerly, and we work on live projects. So students are also working, and very important issue is that if any institute does not have any strong industry-institute linkage cell, that will be difficult for the institute to run. So we are having a very strong industry-institute linkage cell, and through which we are giving 100% placement assistance, not placement. Because if I say we are giving 100% placement guarantee, no, it cannot be, because I have not seen the students' performance. But we are conducting campus, we are inviting companies to visit our campus, and we have 3 mentors: faculty mentor, corporate mentor, and alumni mentor. So these are a few very good things for Bhavans, and thank you all once again. And I thank all the speakers for sparing their time today, because we are having the holiday today on account of Eid, but still they have joined. And I thank to all the participants for sparing their time and joining this program. I am sure that you will enjoy this program. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce our first speaker of the day, Dr. Devdas Ganguly. Dr. Ganguly is an alumnus of the Regional Engineering College, presently NIT, Durgapur, and Burdwan University. He is an academician having a widespread experience of teaching students from varied backgrounds and also guiding them in their research areas. Dr. Ganguly had been attached to Haldia Institute of Technology as professor and dean of the Department of Management and Social Sciences for a long time. He is presently engaged in the position of principal of the Eastern Institute for Integrated Learning and Management, Kolkata, the MBA section. I would request the slide not to be changed, please. Thank you. EIILM is under affiliation of the Raiganj University.
You read out. This is typographical mistake. You read out.
Thank you, sir. Before coming into academics, Dr. Ganguly had successfully left his footprints in the manufacturing industries for about 20 years, thus gaining widespread experience and knowledge. Today, he is going to throw some light on the uncertainties in functional management. I welcome Dr. Ganguly to render his words, please. The podium is yours, sir.
Thank you, madam. Respected principal, Professor Dr. Patro, respected faculty members, other dignitaries and scholars, and dear students, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk in this session. I am grateful for this. It's my pleasure to be with you in this fine evening to talk in presence of you all over the topics. The topics actually is management in uncertain times, issues and challenges. In fact, at the outside, I must appreciate the selection of the topics. It's something very specific, it's something very unique, and not much emphasis has been given in this area of management. It is something unprecedented. I must appreciate the selection of this topic. This topic of the discussion, management in uncertain times, issues and challenges, I must appreciate it is something being unique in nature. We talk and we are familiar with management being in different state of affairs or situations. Disaster management, crisis management, risk management, sustainability management, environmental management, etc. are defined very specific and delicate areas of management. But management in uncertain times is related issues and challenges, I feel, is an aspect of management, is really something very much specific in nature, being unique. And I must say it is something in non-conventional area of management. It's not something conventional area of practices of management. It is very rarely done, very rarely taken up, and very rarely emphasized. And situation develop when we understand the lapses in these areas. Uncertain times, why the time is uncertain, require primarily to be asserted. Each fraction of time, because of uncertainty, become uncertain because of some reason. Absolute, its own. Am I audible? Please, can you hear me, please? Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, nice. Each fraction of time become uncertain because of some reason being absolutely its own. The concerned uncertainty may become because of different environmental related factors. It can be, uncertain because of socio-economic related factors. It can be uncertain because of different other factors. Those may be critical. Those may be, crucial. And the concerned uncertainty may be related with some aspects, some areas which we can, by some means or others, we can perceive. Say that uncertainty, like recently developed deep cyclonic storm, in the outcome of which is, we know, tsunami, Amphan, or yes, or because of some social uncertainty, become some economic uncertainty, or because of some economic uncertainty, or because of social economic uncertainty, or any other causing the uncertain time. These are some of the areas of uncertainty which develop uncertain times. The uncertain time is outcome of uncertain situation. The approach to manage the uncertain times requires taking care of both the aspects. It's not the aspect of uncertainty. We also take care of the reason of this uncertainty, which is also uncertain, because if we do not take care of the cause, the effect, even if it is taken care of, again it comes into picture. Again, this creates concern. So, management of uncertain times requires taking care of both these two, management of uncertain time and management of the cause which creates the uncertain time, that is uncertainty itself. In fact, phenomenon of management in uncertain times and its implications are something very special and from different other aspects of management. As I had been telling, the uncertainty because of the cyclonic disaster, etc., we could have, or we had some prior information over this. We had perceived this. Something odd is going to taken up. because of uncertain tropical condition, and we had taken care of. But in this area, the phenomenon of management in uncertain times, its implications are something very special and else from different other aspects of management. Let us consider the situation of crisis management, a very significant and priority area in management. To illustrate the economic crisis that had occurred a few years back, the crisis had started coming up, and many affluent countries of West had perceived this and seen the symptom of this. Many financial institutes, after forcing the crisis, had taken necessary measures and successfully managed the financial crisis. They had faced the challenge, and with the scopes that they built up that come over the challenge. Again, some financial institutes like Lehman Brothers could not manage and had been in difficulties. However, we all know India, under the suitable guidance of its economists and financial experts, had managed the global financial crisis suitably. In fact, under the guidance of Reserve Bank of India, RBI, we all know the Central Bank of India, the one. The repo rate, CRR, cash reserve ratio, was very skillfully managed, and inflation to Indian market had been significantly under control. So we perceived, we had foreseen that some economic crisis is developing up, and we had the opportunity of managing that challenge, coming over the challenge. Again, I come to the, concept of, I come to the crisis developed in disaster management. Same is the situation in area of other critical event in management, the disaster management. In most of the cases, the identity of the impending disaster is known. In case of disaster like flood, cyclone storm, etc., the disaster is notified or is known earlier, and corresponding preventive measures are taken as disaster management. But in case of situations in management, like the management in uncertain times, the situation is not alike. It is different. Almost no country in the world was aware that the globe on the whole is going to have some uncertain time because of some uncertain situation. That is that we are facing today, which is an unknown disease like COVID-19, some unknown disease, COVID-19, developing up to create this uncertainty, global uncertainty. The disease was uncertain, not known to anyone. And the situation, the outcome that the disease has caused is also totally uncertain. No country in the globe was prepared before the beginning of the uncertain and unknown disease, which had caused the uncertain situation or time in the globe. Management in uncertain time is different of other situations in the management of other areas or aspects like crisis management, risk management, disaster management. As we have told, there we get some opportunity, there we get some indication, there we get some symptoms that something unusual is going to come. We can get ourselves prepared. Here the situation is so critical, so disastrous. The COVID-19 onslaught is going on. We are not having any medicine for that. We had to go for our research work to find out the medicine. By the time a major disaster has come up. So here the timing is uncertain, and the reason is also very much uncertainties in nature. So these two cumulatively are causing this uncertainty. So in management of uncertainty, uncertain time is something different for other situations in management as stated above. So the topic is something very specific in nature. it really appreciating that someone to cope up with this situation is to have expertise in the management of uncertain times. Management, as we all know, is an art of getting the things done, or it can be defined in the other way, the science of decision-making, planning, organizing, coordinating, and controlling. For each uncertain time, or each uncertainty, how it is managed is something different. In each case of this uncertainty, some specific approach is to be followed up. There is no predetermined, definite tool or model which we can follow up. This uncertainty desires developing the tools, models, scopes for meeting the challenge of this uncertainty. We need to find out the situation and proceed accordingly. Let us assume present situation, uncertain time because of COVID-19, and find out the approach, how we should manage this uncertainty. Uncertain time, as observed, is because of some uncertain, unprecedented situation, and requires to be managed accordingly. The ongoing present uncertain time is because of development of pandemic COVID-19, which is truly unprecedented and uncertain. In management of these uncertain COVID-19, it requires different activities, like one, maintaining social distancing, staying indoors, etc. So in this situation, in this rigorous, critical situation of uncertain time, how we undertake management of different functional areas? Because we understand without interactions, persons being involved in management, their direct interaction, their direct cooperation, their direct cumulative function, we cannot run the management. So we need to go for something special for management of uncertain situation or uncertain time. It requires taking these issues under due consideration and coming over the challenges of the uncertain time. We need to take into consideration functional activities in management and look for scopes which may be used. We have to find out the scope. Under this situation, it requires to go for conventional to non-conventional process in the process of management. Let us start in management in academic process, in academic institutes or business organization in uncertain times. What is the conventional process we follow during the management process in the academic institute or these business organizations? We go for interaction, we go for communication. What we do normally, verbal communication like classroom teaching, meeting discussions involving physical presence or participating members, physical presence of participating members. Written communication through documents like study material, official documents like circular, written official notification, etc., etc. But under this situation, we cannot go outdoor. We have to confine ourselves in the indoor system. Social distancing is much, as I've mentioned a little bit earlier, under this COVID-19 restriction. So these conventional processes are of no use in management of the academic system, in management of the service organizations, in management of the industrial organization, etc., etc. So we need to go for the non-conventional process. What non-conventional process we are to follow? We are to follow those non-conventional processes which should help us to avoid the direct interaction of the participating members. direct assembly and exchange of thoughts, ideas of the participating members. So we have to go for online communication involving different online processes, internet, e-journal, CDs, cassettes, etc. These are our tools in the non-conventional process. What non-conventional process means? Non-conventional process means are non-conventional means are mostly computer-based or Android system-based information technology. It's computer-based or Android system-based information technology, IT-generated systems. This can be mentioned to be different digital technology supported means using different web link, etc. These are different digital technology supported means using different web link, etc. The systems are developed with purpose of exploring avenues of using suitable learning management systems to impact online education or exchange other relevant management information in corporate business in situations of uncertain times like COVID-19 occurrences. However, with use of Android type cell phone, most of the students and teachers in education and also people in corporate sectors are illiterate. It is nothing new to them, and they are quite comfortable with most of usual digital technology used in process of information management for long use of Android-based phones or other electronic gadgets. So we are to go for non-conventional means, leaving the conventional means, because in conventional means, what we do is restricted. Assembly of people, direct exchange of people, etc., is restricted under these uncertain conditions of uncertain COVID disease. So we have to go for non-conventional process where we can comfortably avoid these restrictions. Now, let me try to give a brief definition of online communication. Online communication is defined to be a process which encompasses tremendous potentiality of sharing a large volume of communication documents in between source and receiver, because we communicate in between two. One is source and the other one is receiver. Source and receiver by use of Android system at a very large speed over a large geographical area, which with minimum barriers in communication. The advantage over this, a regularly developed online communication is very fast. It can cover a big geographical network, bringing people from different corners of the globe under one shade almost, under one roof almost, within a very specific, specific and significant means of communication. A formal communication, we know it is sharing of documents or message in between source and receiver. So some communication channel. The communication channel is mostly physical exchanges between source and receiver. Notice, leaflet, exchange of documents, circular, postal or courier documents, etc. We avoid this. What we do in the formal communication, we do not use such channels. And also, in such channels of formal communication, barriers in communication, or specifically semantic barriers, etc., are very frequent. Also, along with the formal communication, There are informal communication, or grapevine communication, which becomes in many situations embarrassing. It requires much effort to make the formal communication system more effective. With the development of the suitable Android-based IT system, the barriers which cause, the system polluted can be successfully come over. Now, let us discuss some of the role of digital communication, digital technology as a challenge in management in uncertain times. We go for some specific case-based discussion. Digital technology is a very successful tool used in management in uncertain times. It is in different functional areas of management very effectively used. Some of such scopes and challenges in the management in uncertain times may be mentioned here. Digital recruitment. We understand recruitment under the normal conventional system is something where we cannot avoid the physical presence of the aspirants of job. In process of organizational recruitment, digital recruitment is very successful. As we all know, recruitment is the process of informing and asking the potential job aspirants possessing required qualities to offer their services and motivating them accordingly. In digital technology, it is used very successfully in present days to ask for potentialities on a global basis. We can call for aspirants having their required criterion, qualities, qualification, experience to offer their job as potential candidates, aspirants. So it helps, this digital recruitment helps during these uncertain times of management. Similarly, selection process is also done very successfully using such technology. No accumulation of people, no board meeting, no interview, nothing this on physical presence. We do everything. As we do in our online classes. Like this year also, we follow all the process on selection basis, digital selection basis. Training and development. We understand training and development is a very useful part of human resource management. Use of e-technology is very successfully done in training and development organizational human resource management. Both in the on-the-job training and off-the-job training, the technology is very successfully used. The pictorial digital representation of the different functional area of organizational management, like machinery details, plant layout, plant operation system, method study, motion study, even micromotion study, etc., are very successfully maybe accessible to necessary recipients of the globe in the days of globalization of business very successfully, very perfectly, very specifically. People being in different corners of the globe, being in a training program, can be brought under the one umbrella with pictorial e-representation of the floor system, working system, or the aspects of the training materials. It's become very, very useful for imparting information and knowledge. Now, plant operation. Plant operation, as we all know, is accumulation and assembly of mass. People work together in the plant and they keep the plant operative, viable. But with the successful use of this e-technology, digital technology-based control system, present day management with process of controls, e-control system in plant operation process. The plant operation is controlled from controlled room. There is no people into the floor. If we come today's present days in any power generation, say, industry, petrochemical complex, or say automobiles or other organizations, we see where earlier we used to see. I have seen during my earlier industrial days, people used to run in the floor from one end to the other end. Now nothing is required. All people are there in the control room, in a power generating section. They are just in front of the control panels, showing the different pictorial layouts or other essential data. They just monitored that. They just monitored that. Different e-control and synchronizing systems control the total operation system in power generation plant, oil refineries, etc., faultlessly, keeping away the physical interaction of workmen, etc. So this is how management is done during these uncertain periods of today. And the scopes are utilized, scopes of e-technology, scopes of digital technology is used to come over the challenge of the difficulties of the uncertain days because of uncertain situation, uncertain condition, and uncertain reasons. Managing of global business in uncertain times. Management of business like Pfizer, etc., having global spread effectively utilize the tool of e-communication, etc. Management is involved with communication being both ways. Management is the process of communication, from top-down communication and bottom-up communication, both being intensively used in management practices. Managing for an organization like Pfizer. Pfizer is having around 130 units around the globe, starting from South Africa to India. India, they are having several units. Units in Chandigarh, units in Gujarat, Ankleshwar, even in West Bengal, they had their units in Poland. Now that is under Davos. Anyway, they manage so many organizations using this technology, e-communication. Communication is a lifeline of business. It's a big scope for business to come about the challenges of certainties of adverse hazardous situations in such uncertain times. The adverse situation is a certain one. It's the certainty during this uncertain situation. So this certain adverse situation, the chances of occurrence of which is very certain, is to be managed up with these tools during the uncertain times. And these tools should be used as scope to the challenging situation in global business have obtained several scores for successful management in this uncertain time, and is successfully coming over the challenges. In fact, the management tools and scopes, those are being used in uncertain time, should be retained for coming days. what is being done in this uncertain time had to be done in the coming days, has to be done in coming days on global basis. These practices are inevitable and ever useful for successful management of business. It is not for this uncertain time, but all for time to come to future business. So management in uncertain times, its hopes and challenges is a lesson for us. We should take up the lesson. We should get ourselves equipped for meeting the challenges of future days, for future, management, for future management of the global basis. With this, I conclude. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening words. Our participants are enriched with your words. Thank you so much for being here. I would now like to welcome our second speaker of the day, Dr. Soumyajyoti Banerjee. Dr. Soumyajyoti Banerjee is at present an assistant professor at the Indian Institute of Management, Bodh Gaya. He has completed his PhD in English from IIT Dhanbad. His teaching interests include business communication, ethics in business, and sustainable development. His research areas include interests in literature and literary theory, Eastern mysticism, and he has got more than 11 years of experience in teaching diverse groups of students from various backgrounds. And he has also published in major peer-reviewed journals. So I welcome Dr. Banerjee to deliver his speech.
Let me begin asking the most question during these COVID times. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, you are audible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, ma'am, for that very kind introduction. There might be certain problems. I'm very sorry because the internet seems to be a bit down today from where I'm speaking to you both here. So thanks once again to Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Institute of Management Science, Kolkata. My heartiest thanks to Dr. Ramakanta Patru, Principal, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Institute of Management Science, and of course, Dr. Poulomi Bhattacharya for inviting me to this session. I must say I'm very, very happy indeed to also see Dr. Devdas Ganguly. And sir, I would personally like to congratulate you on an extremely enthralling session that you delivered right now. I would like to state for the record that both Dr. Ganguly and Professor Poulomi are known to me since a very long time. I have had the privilege to work with both of them for, I think, with Dr. Ganguly, I've had the privilege to work for almost 4 to 5 years, and Poulomi madam I've worked with for more than 8 years, more than 8 years. And I think that Poulomi madam is an asset for any organization that she works in. Okay, so let's get this started. What we're going to talk about today, what I have decided, since we don't have much time, so I'm going to give some key pointers as to organizational communication practices, interpersonal communication, so on and so forth. And I hope to, by the end of this session, leave you with something valuable, which you can look upon in retrospect and we will analyze and thereby improve our communication ability. All of us know that certainly we are going through uncertain times, and that is uncertainty was always there. It's not something very, very new. It becomes more uncertain when we have when we come in contact with certain things like the coronavirus pandemic, which has certainly come into our lives over the past 1.5 years, and it has absolutely disabled and unraveled different risks in our lives. So what happens when certain uncertainty comes into our lives? What happens at the organizational level and what happens at the individual level? One thing happens, which is that the sense of perceived risk increases tremendously in the lives of individual and thereby also in organizational life. Before coronavirus pandemic, if we look at it in retrospective, before coronavirus pandemic hit our lives, yes, our lives had a future which was unknown to us, but the sense of risk has increased manifold. The sense of risk has increased not only because the future has become unknown to us, because it always was unknown, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, but also because we are having trouble planning for it. We can't plan because we don't know what are we planning for. The other day I was talking to one of my colleagues. He loves to invest in the share market. And he was telling me that I am thinking of stopping to invest in the share market. And I asked him why. And he said, because I don't know how long I'm going to survive. So even if I plan for 20 years or 30 years, or maybe I want to plan for the next 5 years, I don't know whether I'm going to survive for the next 5 years. So you see what has happened is that this sense of perceived risk has percolated into our lives at the individual level. And because it has percolated at the individual level, goes without saying that it has percolated at the organization level. Economies have crumbled down. Ours is a testament. Unemployment has greatly increased over the world. Job satisfaction has decreased. Work from home tendencies have increased because companies have also found out, especially in the IT sector, that it is better to keep a person at home and make him work for 14 hours than to bring that person into the office and all that establishment cost that goes into asking the person to come in the office and use the AC and the fan and the lights and the computers at the same time. And we can only keep him here for 9 hours. So all of this created a great sense of uncertainty because, well, as I said, the future ahead is, we don't know what it is. Delta has already come. There's talks of Delta Plus variant coming into and hitting us in October, and then there's talks of Lambda and whatnot. We are all rushing to have our vaccines and so on and so forth. So when we are hit by such amounts of uncertainty, I think this is perhaps a greater amount of uncertainty than we have ever imagined in our lives, where we don't know whether it will result in us losing it, touch wood. What we can't imagine is how can we survive this? How can we survive this? The other day, I was reading a wonderful book by a German philosopher called Ulrich Beck. He wrote this book in 1986. So it's been almost 30 years since he wrote this book. And his book is called The Risk Society, English translation. In this book, in 1986, even before we had any idea of this biological weapons of coronavirus and so on and so forth, he talks about risks which are undetectable, irreversible, and unknown. They are undetectable because we can't detect. They just come into our lives all of a sudden. They are unknown because we do not know where they originate from. Like it is, though it's not very unknown in this case, but it's also unknown because we do not know the characteristics of such risks. One such risk he talks about is the global warming, climate change. Climate change is undetectable. We can feel a sense that it is happening, but we don't really know whether it's happening or not. He talks about it in great detail in his book. Also, it's unknown, and he says that once these kind of unknown and undetectable risks penetrate our human lives, they somehow become irreversible. And he gives lots of examples from over long periods of time. But he says that these kind of undetectable, irreversible, and unknown risks have started to come up and crop up every 2 or 3 decades in the post-industrial society. So after the industrialization took place in the 16th and 17th century, and after we entered the post-industrial society somewhere in the 1950s, according to Ulrich Beck, these kind of risks come every 20, 30 years. And he says in the Risk Society that such risks, we should ready ourselves to face such risks more often than not. And he was right. He was correct. It's not even 30 years, and we have faced another undetectable, irreversible, and unknown risk called the coronavirus. I call it undetectable because we don't know where we are contracting it from. If we knew about it, then it would be easy. And it's unknown because we don't really know what its characteristic features are. Yes, we have developed a vaccine, but this virus tends to mutate itself every day, it seems, every week or every month. And also it's irreversible because we don't know what its effects will be on our body once we contracted it. I contracted it, my entire family did. And post-COVID, we don't know what's going to happen to us. People are suffering from altered taste and smell. People are suffering from skin diseases. People are suffering from lots of many other things, which were never in our lives before this coronavirus hit us. So that's why I would urge all of you to read his book, Ulrich Beck, 1986, The Risk Society. Okay, so when this happens, and when such risks come into our lives, as an individual and as an individual working for an organization, or from a managerial standpoint, what happens is a great uncertainty also comes up when it comes to communication. Communication, the ability of communication is very rare. I don't have any qualm saying it. Though we talk very much, being Indians, we have a very talkative, we are very talkative, like talk very much. But talking is not communication. Talking is simply talking. Thereby, I would like to state for the fact that in our lives, in our everyday lives, and in organizational lives, we are facing what I would like to call the paradox of communication. What is a paradox of communication? The paradox of communication is that for the first time in our lives, in human history, we have access to and availability of numerous communication tools, but very limited amount of effective communication which is actually taking place. Isn't that a paradox? We have so much at our disposal. As Ganguly sir was saying, that there are so many IT technologies which have been developed, Android-based technologies which have been developed, and all of these technologies, so many social networking sites which have been developed. And all of these technologies are developed keeping in mind the need for human communication and the need to make human communication even more fluid, even easier than it was before. But what we are seeing is reports after reports. I'm not going to quote research, you can find it out on Google yourself. Reports after reports telling us that this is the day and age where human lives are at its most polarized. Polarized, which means polarization of human lives happens when communication goes down. And by communication, I mean understandable, effective communication. I just don't mean exchange of information. That's a very commonplace, misunderstood idea of communication. That communication is an exchange of ideas. Well, an exchange of ideas can only take place when I understand you and I respond and you understand me. But it is seen in human lives, especially in this day and age, that with all the technological apparatus that we have at our disposal, yet we feel a sense that nobody understands us. And how many times do we say to people, you don't understand me? But it doesn't look so when we are posting images and posts on Facebook or on Instagram. All of us seem very happy. All of us seem very happy. Rarely do we find a post which speaks of unhappiness within families. And even at the organizational level, organizational management, man management, and stakeholder management, all of them depend on effective, clear, concise communication. If as a manager, I'm not able to do that, I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job at that. That's the first thing, paradox of communication. The second problem with communication today, and it's not just today, it has been there with human life, but what I see today more often than not is we lack communicative ability, not just because of polarization which has happened, but because of another factor, which I think is even deeper. That is, most of us have the illusion of being good communicators, but we are not. We are not. We can't. Even if we are speaking the same language as the person we are speaking to, still, when it comes to communicating effectively, we can't, because we simply do not have the tools necessary to become a good communicator. We have not honed the skills of becoming good communicators. If communication would have been so easy, if communication would have been so simple, anybody could be a good communicator. You would not have courses by Harvard University or MIT or Virginia Tech or National University of Singapore, so on and so forth, or IIT Bombay, floating courses on communication. You would not have. And as George Bernard Shaw says, the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. It is the illusion that it has taken place, because we feel that communication has taken place because it ought to take place. I mean, I spoke with you, and sometimes I feel that people, especially in managerial positions or positions of power, they think that the other person ought to understand. It's his problem. It's not my problem. I will speak 2 words, he will understand, or she will understand. She has to, or I will not say anything, but again, she has to understand. That doesn't happen. As a manager, talking from an organizational perspective, as a manager, you are working, or I am working with human beings. I am not working with machines. I'm working with human beings. And if I do not understand that I'm working with human beings, I will not communicate like a human being. I will communicate like a machine. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that effective communication only takes place when we understand the context in which it is taking place, number 1. And number 2, when we understand the background of the person we are talking to. By background, I mean cultural background, the emotional background, maybe the educational background, and societal background, maybe economic background. All these different backgrounds have to be taken care of if we want to make communication effective. I cannot speak the same way to all my employees as a manager and hope to have good results. It just doesn't happen. Nowhere does it happen. None of the good companies, which are Fortune 500 companies, if you go through the history, they have specialized cells of training managers to communicate effectively. How many organizations in our country train? I'm talking about organizations, even academic organizations. How many of them train their teachers to be very good communicators? They don't, I'm sorry to say. They don't. And the result is that we tell our teachers, for example, I'm taking just one example. Pardon me for this. We tell them, you can't teach. Well, no, is it a lack of knowledge for that teacher? No, it's just a lack of communicative ability. Communication is a trainable skill like our muscle. We have a muscle in our body, and through regular practice of exercise, we can train our muscle to do certain things. Communication is like that. It's like a muscle over here. And we have to train it every day. We can't hope to have good communication one day and not the other day. It happens because we do not train ourselves. And as managers, we have to have this vision of training my stakeholders, most important stakeholders, mind you, my employees, and train them to become good communicators. Okay. So now coming to uncertainty and volatile times, I'm going to talk about a few strategies for an effective manager to implement, no matter which organization that manager is belonging to. And you know, it is good communication which makes a manager a leader. That's what I feel. What does a leader do? A leader shows the vision very clearly and leads by example. A manager with very good communicative skill, case in point would be Ratan Tata. Ratan Tata is managing a huge company, but overall, around the world, Ratan Tata is not known as a manager, he is known as a leader. Why is that? Just because he has very clear vision as to where he wants to take his company, and he has very clear ways of communicating them with empathy and skill to his stakeholders, his employees. That's what makes a leader from a manager. So a manager plus good communication can be a leader. A manager minus good communication becomes a boss. Simple. It's just a boss. He's not a leader. And if you have a boss, if I have a boss only, not a leader, I would find the first chance and opportunity to leave that organization. I don't want to work in an organization where I only have a boss and not a leader. I want to work in an organization where I have a leader, not even a manager. Okay. So very quickly, certain strategies. Because of uncertainty which has increased manifold in these COVID times, let's take COVID for an example to keep it simple. Because uncertainty has increased manifold. With uncertainty comes fear. So the degree of fear has increased also along with uncertainty, and at a tremendous pace. Fear has increased. You can see people afraid of their livelihood. You can see people afraid of their income. You can see people afraid of feeding their family. They don't know whether they will keep their job or lose their job. And it's not just happening in India, it's happening around. Let's not kid ourselves. So the first task of a manager in such uncertain times, when it comes to from the communication perspective, is removal of fear in the minds of, as I said, your most important stakeholders, your employees. It's the employees which make organizations. There is something called the American CEO paradigm, which says when a CEO in America, suppose, is asked, who is the most important stakeholder for you, sir? And the CEO is very proud and says, my customer, because I'm running a business, my most important stakeholder is my customer. That's wrong. Your most important stakeholder is your employee. It is the employee which has the duty of catering to the customer. As a manager, you have the duty of taking care of your employees. And one way of taking care of your employees is to remove this immense amount of fear that they have in their minds right now, due to uncertainty, due to coronavirus. So when you're giving a particular task as a manager to somebody to do, suppose, and you want that task to be done very neatly, very rightly, very correctly, you have to first remove the fear of failure. That's the first step that as a manager you have to do. A very good case in point would be our former India captain, Sourav Ganguly. I would urge all of you to go and check out a video on YouTube. It's a video at a leadership summit where he gave a lecture on leadership at IIM Calcutta. And therein he says that when I took young team members into my team, like Virendra Sehwag and Zahir Khan and so on and so forth, they were afraid because they were uncertain. The future was uncertain, and uncertainty, as I said, creates a lot of fear. So the first task, Sourav Ganguly says, I did was to remove that fear, to tell them you are here to stay. Don't be afraid to fail. Because if you're afraid to fail, you will never give your 100%. A company or an organization which stigmatizes failure does not grow. Simple. If as a manager, I stigmatize failure, I do not like people to fail. I do not like people to fail. By that I mean, I do not remove the fear of failure from my employees. My organization cannot grow. Why? Simply because if I do not remove the fear of failure from my employees, they will never innovate. They will never think out of the box. Doesn't happen. They will never think out of the box. They will only think in a claustrophobic manner, because they will only say, okay, I will go to the office at 9 a.m. and I will stay there for 6 p.m. and let me be absolutely clear and correct as to what I do. Let me not offend anybody. Let me not speak to anybody. Let me not talk to anybody. Let me just get this over and done with. And then 6 p.m. I go. And I'm very, very happy. That's not what an organization should be. An organization should be something, a place where I want to go, not a place where I don't want to go. And that responsibility rests on the manager. So first is remove fear. Second is, when you remove fear, you as a manager have to handle pressure. So you have to steel yourself. In uncertain times, people will look up to you as managers for vision, for the path, for guidance. If you are uncertain about your own self, how will you guide? How will I guide? Therefore, I have to steel myself, or I have to make myself at least impervious to uncertainty. By what? By planning. That's the first step. Third thing I'm talking about. By planning clearly and by making my communication clear. So having clarity of thought and clarity of action, and also making my communication transparent. Many organizations fail because their inter-organizational or intra-organizational communication is very, very opaque. It's not transparent at all. Because they feel that if my policies become too transparent to my employees, then the employees will take undue advantage of that. It's the exact opposite. If organizational policies are very clear, employees will give their 100% because they don't have to care about something which is useless. Suppose, case in point is, as a manager, I should be very clear as to when you can take a leave and when you cannot. But most managers, what they try to do is they keep an uncertainty. So employees don't know whether to approach the manager. Will I get a leave? Will I not get a leave? What will my manager say to me? And what happens is that I am not concentrating as an employee on my work, which I am supposed to do. I'm concentrating on going to a wedding and whether I will be able to make it to the wedding because I don't know what my manager is going to say. That actually brings down personal performance. And if personal employee performance goes down, automatically the organizational performance goes down. That's the third thing. Fourth thing is, we have to come out of the American hangover of Milton Friedmanian approach. What do I mean by that? As managers, mostly we still, Indian managers, mostly across all organizations and all sectors I've seen this. We still have the hangover of the late 1970s and 80s in America, which was a time of high capitalism, and something called the Milton Friedman approach, which was that managers have just one responsibility. What is that? To maximize shareholder profit. That's it. They don't have any other responsibility. That is their only ethical responsibility, to maximize shareholder value. And it seems that what happens in India is what America does 30 years before, we do 30 years later. That's what we do across all sectors in education and organization, industries, manufacturing, service sector. We're still having that hangover. It's kind of an imperial hangover, American hangover, which we have, where we feel that as a manager, my only task is to please my boss. No, as a manager, my task is to take care of my team. Full stop. Period. My task as a manager is to take care of my team. Why? Because if I take care of my team, point number 5, if I focus on their well-being and I manage strong emotions during uncertain times like these, it will, they will respond, my team will respond, and it will come back to me through good performance. And if I'm unable to do that, it will come back to me through bad performance. Simply said and done. A manager's task, mostly in our country, as managers think, because they are not trained in management, they think that their task is to control, to supervise. And by supervision, they think that not to give this thing, not to give that thing, take things away from their employees, thereby keep them in stress. I don't understand what logic there is in stressing a person more, even more, a person who is already stressed. Uncertainty means, as I said before, we are already stressed. So as an employee, when I go to work in an organization, I'm stressed. I'm stressed about my family. I'm stressed about my daughter. I'm stressed about my parents. I'm stressed about myself. Okay. And then my manager stresses me further. What will I do? Will I have good performance or bad performance? I'll have bad performance. And when I have bad performance, my manager calls me and scolds me. So a manager's task in uncertain times is to focus on employee well-being and communicate well-being to the employee, give positive vibes, give out positive inspirational messages, not give out negative messages, and to manage strong emotions within the workplace. Next thing which I want to state, and I want to state it with great emphasis, is management is not just about having meetings. So the next great communication failure which happens, or error which happens these days, at least after the coronavirus pandemic in uncertain times, is managers tend to overdo Zoom meetings. We overdo them. We don't need to do that. If we actually need a Zoom meeting or Google Meet or something like that, or WebEx, you do it. But managers these days tend to overdo them. Every other thing there's a meeting. What happens is that as an employee, my mind is always on the meeting. My mind is not on my job. If you want to communicate something to me, just pick up a phone, give me a ring, communicate clearly what you need to be done. You don't have to see all the time what I'm doing. Okay, Zoom meetings, so on and so forth. So please don't overdo Zoom meetings. And this is the lesson which all managers should take. Okay. And the last point which I want to make is the most important point when it comes to handling uncertainty through communication as managers or as bosses or so on and so forth, is listen. Listen to your stakeholders, listen to your team, listen to your employees who are working with you. Listen to the people whom you have to work with. Firstly, demonstrate your vision in clear terms, what you need them to do, and then keep a space open for them to tell you certain things. Right? Peter Drucker, a great writer on communication, he says the most important thing for managers to do in business communication is to listen to what isn't said. What is my employee not telling me? Is my employee stressed? Is my team under a lot of pressure? Let me talk to them. Let me try to understand at the individual level, at the team level. Okay. Once I start listening, then I would be able to understand and empathize with them as to what they think of my vision, what they think of my plan. Because ultimately, as manager, I must understand, I will only give them the plan. It is they who will put it into effect on the ground. It's not me. You see, a manager does not go and do it. It's a team which goes and does it on the ground. So the team which goes and does it on the ground, if they don't have clarity in their minds, if they don't know what exactly they're doing, and if also they don't know what will their rewards be if they do it, what will their incentives be if they do it, why should they do it? I'll give you a very simple example. For an educational institute, what should be the incentive? If we are very touchy about NIRF ranking and so on and so forth, we have to incentivize our professors to publish. That is the incentive. We have to incentivize their publication. The sooner the professors are incentivized to publish more and more, if I, as the manager, or the principal, or the headmaster, director, incentivize them to publish more and more, and when they start publishing as a team, they start bringing projects to my institute, and I incentivize them either in cash or kind or by promotion, automatically I'm going to create an environment and an aura around my institute, or an atmosphere in my institute of great academic excellence. Academic excellence of an academic institute is brought in place by the teachers and the professors. In most academic institutes, professors do not publish because they're not incentivized to publish. They have so much of pressure and load on their minds already. They have so much of class pressure and class load and sessions and lectures and so on and so forth. They're not incentivized to publish. They just go and take their classes and come back. That's it. That's not what a manager is supposed to do. A manager is not one who is supposed to tell a professor, you have a class. No. Manager, good manager is one who has to communicate effectively, especially in uncertain times. That please come here, let me have a talk with you. I see you are, your performance is going down a little bit. Is there something wrong with you? Is something happening? Is there something wrong in your family? Can you tell me? Then that person will open up. And once the person opens up, the manager's perspective should be, how can I help him? How can I help her? And once I help her or help him as a manager, it will come back to the organization many folds. 10 times more the organization will get from the same employee, because that employee will feel, okay, so this is an organization where I'm cared for. Why should I leave it? I should not leave it. I should work for this organization. I should give my best, even more. That's what managers do. That's what great managers do all the time. And what bad managers do is they do not communicate, because they think communication means talking. Communication means speaking in meetings. And they think communication means giving lectures. Communication is not that. Communication is clearly defining your goals in understandable terms and with empathy. Why do I keep stressing empathy? Because these are uncertain times. People are stressed. People are committing suicide, for God's sake. So if I'm not able to, as a manager, create empathy for my employees, for my team, I'm sorry, but I'm not doing a very good job. I'm a failure of a manager. A manager minus empathy is a disaster. Okay. So we have to keep in mind, why do we communicate? What do we want our employees to do for us? Simple. We want them to maintain, if possible, improve their performance during these times of great change. I'll say that again. What do we want our employees to do? We want them to maintain and, if possible, improve their work performance during these times of great change. So, as a manager, what do I need to do? If that's my vision, if that's what I want my employees to do, what do I need to do? I have to communicate performance. Let me communicate clearly, what does performance in this particular context mean? Performance for organizing a seminar like this is a different thing. Performance when it comes to the class is a different thing for a professor. Performance when it comes to student affairs is a different thing from a professor. So when I am communicating performance to my employees, be it in the manufacturing sector, service sector, insurance sector, so on and so forth, hospitality sector, I have to do it in a contextualized manner, as I said, summing up, contextualized manner that is relevant to them and that is understandable to them. And what do I mean by relevance to the employees? Their immediate work environment should be taken care of. Their job security should be taken care of. Okay, because if a person is always suffering from job insecurity, forget performance. The person will not perform. We still think that giving stress and job insecurity makes a person perform. No, the person will not. Job security makes a person perform. Okay, but job security with accountability. It's not that I give you job security and I'm not doing anything. No, the first manager's job is to create accountability, but also empower the employees. Many times what managers do is ask employees to do certain things, but they do not empower them. You have to empower them in speech and in action. Potential career development, and now how organizational change will affect the employees. That is also the role of the manager, to communicate to them very, very clearly that, look, our organization is going through a period of great change. We are sorry, but we are not able to give you such and such privileges right now. We would be doing it in the future. Don't you worry. You give it your best. I will give my best, and let us work as a team together and let us get this thing done. If a manager is able to do it in very clear and concise terms, in proper terms, then that organization will grow in future to come. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shobhajyoti Banerjee, for this wonderful session. All our participants have really enjoyed this session. There are numerous messages in the chat box too. So thank you. Now, before I conclude with this vote of thanks. I would sincerely like to thank Dr. Soumyajyoti Banerjee for his kind words regarding me towards the beginning. Thank you so much. He has been an ex-colleague of mine, and I'm really thankful to him for, I had informed him at a very short notice regarding this webinar, and he has responded positively. He has spared his time. Thank you so much, Soumyajyoti. Now, I sincerely render my gratitude to our honorable speakers for their enlightening words, which have truly furnished our participants with enough food for thought, and they have truly been inspired by your sparkling words. I would extend my generous thanks to our honorable principal, Dr. R.K. Patro, for his wholehearted support in this organization of this webinar, in this absence of which it would really have been impossible. And personally speaking, I have joined this institute very recently. It has been just a month, and I could relate very well to what the last speaker, Dr. Soumyajyoti Banerjee, had said regarding this empathy. So I have experienced this from our honorable principal, sir. He has been so concerned regarding this uncertain time in which I have also joined. I haven't been physically present in this institute ever. I haven't known my colleagues, but I have received their wholehearted support in this organization of this webinar. So I sincerely thank all my colleagues, and special mention to Mr. Rana Ghorstosdar and Mr. Topun Das for handling the technicalities of this webinar so smoothly. And last but not the least, I would sincerely thank all our participants for such an appreciating involvement throughout the session. So thank you to all of you. Now we have reached the end of the webinar, and we should conclude with a national anthem, for which I would request all of you to observe silence and please maintain, observe a standing position. So I request the national anthem to be played. Thank you. So here we conclude this webinar for the day. Thanks to all of you once again. Good night.